Good morning, everyone. Thanks for signing in. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Georgia Flex monthly meeting. My name is Karen Holtz, and today is March 25th, 2025. We have a good session planned for you today. We'll talk about the MBQuip updates and reports, and we have Dawn Waltrip here from the State Office of Rural Health, who will give you updates, and please ask any questions. We'll do a quick follow-up on domain 2 and then go into data analysis, which is domain 3. We're going to spend a lot of months talking about data analysis and sharing our goals and your data. And we also have Morgan Medical. Caitlin Gibson is the case manager there at Morgan Medical, and she'll share her hospital action plan. So can't wait to hear from Caitlin. And then we'll just wrap up with project timeline, updates, and resources, and any questions that you have. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, if you have any questions, my name is Karen Holtz. You can email me there. Also, Mel Brown's email address is there as well. And something we learned about each other, we were both medical technologists in the lab when we started our careers many, many years ago. And we've been in the hospital and healthcare ever since. So always reach out to Mel or myself. For MBQuip updates, I'm going to turn it over to Dawn Waltrip, and she has a few updates.
Thank you, Karen, and good morning, everybody. We have a few updates from the Federal Office of Rural Health Policy about Flex. We had a difficult time getting some of those updates. It was a little strange that they only wanted to tell us verbally and not send us anything in writing. So it took us a minute to get that information. But anyway, there have been some changes to MBQuip, and as the slide indicates, the hospital commitment to health equity measure will be removed in FY25, which begins September the 1st of this year and ends August 31st of 2026. And so, I mean, you'll continue to work on it from now until then, but it will be going away. So that means that you will not be required to incorporate the structural measure and assess those 5 domains for advancing health equity, and you will not be required to submit that annual report. So we're going to have to replace that with something. So instead of the hospital commitment health equity measure that Alliant is working with you all on, we'll be picking up the safe use of opioids core measure as our project starting September the 1st. So Alliant, Linda, Karen, and Mel will share the details, of course, of that with you later, most likely in the kickoff for the next year. So the COG quality infrastructure measure remains, so you'll still be asked to complete the annual assessment, although some of that language has been edited to meet the new requirements as well. And Arquita has already got that specs guide out. They have posted the new MBQuip core measure specifications guide on their website, and that link is listed here on the slide. You can find all the information about that here, as well as the new language in that measure. You will still continue to screen and report the social drivers and the social drivers of health positive measures. And one other thing we learned, that when you screen for your real data, your race, ethnicity, and language demographic data, you'll only screen for 2 genders, and that's male and female, male or female. The other genders are out. So that's our updates for now. So are there any questions?
Questions from everyone. I have a quick question, and this goes back to the first bullet, the hospital commitment to health equity measure. So we understood that as that's domain 1 with all the subdomains. That's what you're referring to?
It would be the hospital commitment to health equity measure, the domain 1 through 5, which is equity as a strategic priority, data collection, data analysis, quality improvement, and leadership engagement. And if you look at the new specs guide, that entire measure is deleted from that guide. You'll only do that, quality infrastructure, which is those 8 points on that measure description, which is a leadership responsibility and accountability, quality embedded within the organization's strategic plan, workforce engagement and ownership, culture of continuous improvement through behavior, culture of continuous improvement through systems, engagement of patients, partners, and community, collecting meaningful and accurate data, and using data to improve quality. So that language has changed somewhat, but the quality infrastructure is still there, just not the hospital commitment to health equity with those 5 measures.
Okay.
So that makes
Good to me.
sense.
And here's my next question, and Bonnie just asked it. Do we still continue this measure through September? Do we still work on our strategic plan?
Yes.
Yes.
We do. I had to
Good.
clarify that because it said going forward, which sounded like immediately. So I had a call with our project officer, and she said, continue your project as written through the end of August. So you'll still continue to work on this measure through August, the end of August, and then it will discontinue September the 1st.
And we're really looking forward to doing work on safe use of opioids. We know that's something that affects all generations, even our elders. And there's lots of great support that everybody can be providing on that. So we're going to really enjoy that. But this has been good work that everybody has done to think deeply about this, because we know a lot of, when we talk about health equity, a lot of this is access. You know, I've experienced firsthand, when you move to a rural area, it is hard to find the support that you need, and you really depend on your community. And y'all have done a beautiful job reaching out to the community. So the fact that in that assessment that you complete, it talks about reaching your community, and many of you have just excelled at making sure that people in your community are reached through innovative ways. You've just really made sure that you're supporting them well. So lots still to be very excited about.
Absolutely. Everyone has done such a great job on this project, and kudos to all of you for just diving in and being so committed to this measure. So thank you so much for all your work.
Okay. 2 comments. The safe use of opioids is concurrent prescribing, and that can be found on page 7 of this link, that information guide. So you all may be familiar with that, but I'm sure we'll get our pharmacist, Jennifer Massey, to join this group to provide, subject matter expertise. And speaking of excelling, I see Caitlin Gibson joined. And Caitlin, when we get to slide 20, you can unmute your line, or we'll have our technical folks send you a button to unmute. So great.
And Karen, before you leave this, I think the other thing that's really good to speak about, just the 2 genders, is a strategic initiative of the current administration, and I think it makes things a lot easier on staff receiving patients, having conversations. But y'all have done, again, a beautiful job teaching and training to that, and the nuances of having conversations without stigma and being able to think through that with people. But it is, I can see how it'll simplify. And, I completed a continuing education program just recently, and there were still 20 questions I had to answer. And I thought to myself, they just haven't seen the memo yet, that we're not supposed to be asking these 20 questions of people. But when you do look at how this will, simplify the way that conversations are held in many ways. And, but again, it's I think getting down to the, so to speak, the basics, and making sure that we're just doing a good job meeting people's needs without a lot of extraneous information that had been collected for a while. So some good changes in all this, and we know that we still have a lot of work to do.
Okay. And looking at the big picture, that safe use of opioids is under patient safety, I believe. Social determinants of health 1 and 2 measures are under care coordination, just high level. As we talk about social determinants of health 1 performance in Georgia, these are MB-QIP reports that Dawn's data analysis team sent us. You can read here the percent Georgia hospitals, 12% compared to the national or nationwide at 25%. And this is for calendar year 2023. So it looks like we had 6 hospitals in Georgia report. 12% compared 25%. Social determinants of health 2, that positive screen rate for social drivers of health. We can see here where Georgia performance compared to the national performance. It's a little bit hard to read, but this first one, food insecurity, screen rate 6%, a little higher than the national 5%. Housing instability 4%, lower than 5% nationally. Interpersonal safety, the same at 2% in Georgia compared to national. And here's what stuck out to me: the transportation needs, positive screening rate for transportation needs, 8% compared to 5% nationally. So absolutely. Also higher was utility difficulty, 6% compared to 5% nationally.
So Karen, looking at that, would you say that the Georgia critical access hospitals in 4 of the 5 measures are better or equal to the nation?
Well, it's
higher is better, right?
It's just that the patient population, so you're screening positive for transportation needs in Georgia is higher than nationwide.
Okay.
It's higher. So the needs are higher in Georgia. Same for food insecurity, transportation and food insecurity. Again, 2 number 1 screen positive rates.
And I'm sure for the following year, that number went up for the number of hospitals reporting, because it looks like there were only 6 out of the 30 reporting. And I feel positive that that number went up drastically, because I believe all of you started screening for SDOH and SDOH positive last year. So we can look forward to that looking a lot better on the next report.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And this was just a sneak peek, just to let you all know. As you're putting in the data, there are reports behind there. Okay. February, we had a great session with breakout sessions, and we talked about domain 2, the homework assignment, complete this survey link where you just wrote in a few sentences about your demographic information, your social determinants of health information, how you trained your staff, and inputting into electronic health records. So all good, all good. The folks that haven't done it yet, please do. We'd love to, for you to be prepared. You can report, attest to it. As of March 20th, let's see, I had 18 hospitals. Thank you very much. So 60%. So I'm happy with 60%. First time looking at this. You all did an amazing job. I believe there were 2 more, Clinch and Jasper, who also submitted. So thank you all very much. Again, we like to look at the data and share it with you. Domain 3 has 1 subdomain, and this is the very important data analysis. And do you stratify your key performance indicators by the demographic information, the real data, your social determinants of health, the transportation needs, the food insecurity? So where you identify your gaps, and do you put it on a dashboard? So basically, this is your domain 3, very important quality work. There are frequently asked questions for all the domains. There's the link here. Do you require a specific performance dashboard? No, it's whatever your hospital is using. So if you haven't seen it yet, ask to see your quality council quality dashboard. What are your key performance measures? Could be readmissions, length of stay. Also, do hospitals need to stratify all key performance indicators or just some? It's certainly not all. You pick what's meaningful to your population. And again, or you can look at the process of care measure. So if you're looking at readmissions and you also want to look at a process of care measure, so the discharge information, the discharge process, you may want to look at that as well. And I believe I have, before one more slide here about the submission timeline, the performance period for January to December 2024. You can now submit a test April 1st through May 15th. I keep adding to these data analysis components, and we love showing this slide. Pick your key performance outcome, whether it's mortality, readmissions, stratify your patient population, as I mentioned, and display the gaps in the dashboard, or any way you're reviewing your quality measures. We talked about what's currently on your hospital dashboard. Is it mortality, length of stay, readmissions? Do you also have active quality improvement teams? Maybe you have a diabetes nurse or somebody that leads diabetes team. Tap into them to look at some key performance indicators. Use charts and graphs. Excel, you can do run charts, pie charts, graphs, bar charts work as well. Very simple. We're going to take a look at some today. And also, I like this one, benchmarking against industry standards. So do you know your state, Georgia, readmission rate, national rate? So begin to benchmark, and that's my challenge to you, is reach out and start benchmarking. Any questions to this point? I have 3 examples I'm going to show you, basic, intermediate, and more advanced examples of dashboards that I had from our HQuick program. And this first one, it's a little bit hard to see, and it's a few years old. This was from a small rural hospital in our HQuick program who was presenting on health equity. And she shared this, that she had the different demographics, primary diagnoses, low income, language. So she had her stats. She had patients by race and payer, financial class. It was just something that they looked at in their health equity committee. And you may have seen this before. This is from a hospital in Georgia. On the left, the barriers to discharge, clearly what sticks out to you. The top barriers identified were homelessness and unwillingness to follow treatment. So they looked at these areas. The other ones were transportation, lack of insurance, unable to return to previous living conditions. Okay, she also tracked her monthly readmission rate. You can see it's actually a decrease. I would like hone in on 5% to 15% linear lines there, and focus on addressing those 2 barriers and decrease the 30-day readmission rate from 12.6% to 10%. That is a significant decrease. Just to show it, I would just expand that a little bit more. A nice decrease, nice trend line. And you can also, if you're going to click on your graph, you can kind of right click and it'll say show trend line. You can show a trend line. You can show the data table. Lots of fun things you can do in Excel.
Karen,
Pro tip, yes.
I was going to say, another great thing about Excel is being able to annotate, make little comment boxes. And the reason I say that is, sometimes you forget or you try to, always a problem could be if you try 2 or 3 things at one time and you're not sure what you can attribute your improvement to. But if you annotate, just make a little note and say, started doing this, or started working closely with, 4 nursing homes in our area, started working closely with the United Healthcare State Insurance Program, whatever it is, because, your brain can only hold so much. So make little notes in your graphs so that you can remember, and then you can really kind of see. And that makes it easy also to share with other people. I think that's one of the beautiful things about that. You can say, oh yeah, let me tell you the story behind that. I met this doctor and he was really passionate about working with people with a certain problem. And that really helped us to, his mother was diabetic and he always wanted us to do diabetic follow-up. And so take notes on your charts and your graphs so that you can you can tell the story a little bit better. That makes a great success story.
It sure does. Tell the story, show the disparity, and definitely love that. Thank you, Linda. Also, I'm particular about dates. I see months here, but we don't know what year this was. Is it 2023? Is it 2022? So I always like to put the dates or the year. I also like to have my source down in the lower left-hand corner. Any other suggestions? Okay, this one is more advanced, and you've seen this one. I believe Rosa shared this with you, and it's actually Process for Healthcare Data Analysis by Quality Measure. So this is the process that Georgia Hospital went through. All admissions by race, ethnicity. They found the Black African American, number 2, and then they looked at the readmissions by race and ethnicity. Their third step, then focused on that Black African American males readmissions and heart failures. So by DRG, looking at readmissions, and then finally readmissions, social determinants of health, food insecurity and transportation needs. It's very complex. We focused on African American males, heart failure. What's the reason for their heart failure? Why are they always returning to the hospital? Food insecurity, transportation needs, and then they were able to develop their goal and their action plan. So just some examples for you there. Additional insights, as you know, quality folks, we know data may shift and change. Keep your eye on it. This was one example from the HQuick Hospital. The baseline data shifted as a result of mortality in older Black men, new finding of younger and sicker Black men with cardiac failure diagnosis. So know the related statistics, age, gender. Continue to ask root causes. It could be cultural, linguistic barriers, and what can you learn from your patient experience analysis? I think that HCAHPS may be misspelled, but again, get to the root cause. It takes time, but once you get to the root cause, and I love this last bullet, go to the source, the patients in your priority population, go to the source, why, ask them to get to the root cause. It helps. It will definitely help. Okay, the last part of our presentation today is our hospital action planning sharing. And as Dawn mentioned, we'd love to hear your success stories. So as we collect your hospital action plan, your success stories is what they're nicknamed. We want to put them on the website. So you can all share, you can access, you can learn from each other, you can reference them. Hey, I like the way Caitlin used this in her graph, and I'm going to do this. So it's your time to shine. You can review your strategic plans. We have the strategic plan or the playbook if you need us to email it to you. Each hospital will be asked to report out on at least one goal and your action steps by July. So again, we're going to work on this till the end of till August, but we want you all to present and share. We'll call it Quality Council, or we can all share and with our peers and ask questions until the summer months. You can use PowerPoint template to add any graphs, the run charts, the pie charts. Again, show me the disparity. We asked you to share selected dates. And just shout out to Joni Powell at Jeff Davis. You did present in February, very nicely stepped up. And Caitlin Gibson from Morgan Medical stepped up for today's presentation. And just a shout out to Caitlin. We've been working all weekend, and it just shows your hard work and dedication to quality improvement. So hats off to you. In April, Shannon from Candler County signed up, but I had to fill in the slots. So I put an alphabetical order. This is Blakely, this is Melissa Chatouche, Dexter, Clinch Memorials at George Johnson, Early Medical Center, Rhonda Cross. Thank you so much. Jenkins County, I have Kayla, Patrick. So anyway, I sent you the template. Please let me know if you're willing and able, and we'll get you set up. I need it a week before, so to have your hospital action plan a week before. And thanks to the others, we do have to fill in for the rest of the months. Question?
Karen,
Yes, ma'am.
we've got some folks who are, and rightfully so, they want to know what was done in the past, because maybe they weren't fully aware what was in it. So we've got those email addresses for Nicole and Rebecca and anybody else. If you want to see it, we have that, we can get with you, let you take a look at it, and then you can adapt. And it's, what do we say? Adapt, adopt, abandon. Keep doing what you're doing, or change it up, and or just say, you know what, that was then, this is now. It's a year later. We're going to work on this. Is my new work. So yes, we'll get those to you.
We'll send out the playbook, and I have a PDF of it, so you can see everyone's responses. And as of a few days ago, Linda, it was still on the website. I know we talked about removing some words and verbiage, but it's still on the website. And as Caitlin's talking, I can go back and find you the website. So definitely, it's nice to have. I reference it every week. Every week I go back to it to look, and I want to see how you're doing. And I'm always happy to help you. So we'll get that playbook out to you. Oh, okay. I see. Lashana. Okay, Angie and Lashana for Atrium Health. Yeah, I can put your names in there. It was May 25th, May 27th. Sorry, that was just in my mind because I think there are a couple atriums.
There are.
Oh, so did you? Is that the same? It's the same then. Okay, I gotcha. Okay. Same with the Archbalds. I know they're different ones, so that's why I put someone's name in parentheses. That's just to help me. Okay, it's Atrium Health Peach. Thank you. I'll correct that. Yeah, so Angie and Lashana, you're up for May 27th. Thank you. Can't wait.
Karen, if somebody doesn't see their name on this, what should they do?
I can pick a date.
Oh,
good question.
No.
Yeah, I actually just went through April and filled out April alphabetically. You know, who comes after? I'll have to see who's missing here.
Well, we can do that. And then tap folks and say what's good for you. I mean, if you're planning a 1 month cruise, we don't want to ruin your cruise by having to stop and join a Zoom call. So we want you to pick times that are good for you too.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Wills Memorial, the great team at Wills Memorial. You know, select a date that works best for you, or I'm just going to kind of add them alphabetically? Good question. Good question. Okay, let's see. We're going to have Caitlin Gibson come off of mute. Let's see, Karen Ragland, can you help me get Caitlin up and running?
Can you hear me, Karen?
Yes, we
Okay.
can. Thank
I was
you.
able to take it off mute. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Caitlin, great job with the slides. I'm going to introduce Caitlin Gibson, a case manager at Morgan Medical, and stepped up to share her hospital action plan and her graphs. So this is our quality counsel. So if you have any questions at the end, we're going to help Caitlin out with next steps. So take it away, Caitlin.
All right. Thank you, Karen. So I am Caitlin Gibson. I'm from Morgan Medical Center, and I picked the goal that we had to look at African American female readmissions. That was something that stood out when we were originally analyzing the data. So when we first started this, we kept it very basic. We didn't want to get too overwhelmed with trying to get really in depth to begin with. And we were limited on the data that we could pull with our EHR. And at the time, we didn't have access to our patients that readmitted outside of our hospital. So, you know, now we are lucky enough to have access to GHA that provides us all with Georgia readmissions, which has been a game changer when you're looking at readmits. So to begin with, we wanted to analyze the readmission data and focus on patients that were scoring high risk for readmissions via the LAY score. And we wanted to optimize the discharge planning process because we saw a need for additional nurse to patient time. And we also obviously wanted to provide additional support to patients that triggered on the SDOH questionnaire, because we find, I think, in all of our hospitals that patients that are in need of resources are usually the first ones to come back because they went home, they didn't have everything they needed, didn't have the support, and then they returned to a hospital. So we did show that we had a reduction from 23 to 24. We originally had 3 African-American female readmits, and in 24, when we looked back, we had none, and we did have a significant decrease overall in our readmissions, which was great. We had been contacting patients to begin with or contacting them after discharge just to make. You can go back to the graphs, that's fine.
Sorry about that.
We were contacting the patients after discharge, but I don't think as quickly. So we wanted to make sure that we really responded to these patients as soon as they went home within 2 days, so that if anything came up, we could really focus on it right away, so that we didn't have time, they didn't have time, you know, to really let it become a problem. And so we put really a 48-hour mark on those patients, but a lot of them we were calling the very next day, and we were calling basically all admissions the very next day, regardless of whether they scored high or not. We put a focus on those patients that scored high, but we were trying to call everyone, and because we are a small hospital, we were able to do that, which I think was great. So we did find that of the readmissions, the African-American readmissions, 2 were related to diabetes. And we thought that the most likely conclusion with that, after speaking with the patients, is that they just needed additional education time with their nurse. So we try to enhance the nurse-patient discharge teaching time so that they could really talk about what was going to be necessary for aftercare when they went home related to their diabetes. We have a lot of patients that go home and they seem to understand, and then they end up back in our emergency room with hyperglycemias they didn't check or what have you. So we really wanted the nurse to spend a lot of time with the patients that had that diabetes diagnosis to really make sure they understood everything that went along with that. So that was one of the things that we had done. And when we really analyzed all the data after this, we saw that, you know, our African American female readmissions had improved, had gone to 0, but then, you know, we had seen an additional demographic, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But as far as our data analysis, we saw that African Americans account for 21% of our inpatient admissions, but there were 13% of our readmissions that were African American females. And that stood out because, you know, we have a small overall census. And it seemed like for just African American females to take up 13% of our readmissions, it seemed high to us, with them being only 21% of our admissions. So that's why we focused on that to begin with. And then we can go to the next slide. So this is, you know, what we looked at to really compare the data to make sure that what we did made a difference. And you can see from calendar year 23 to 24, we had a significant decrease overall in all of our readmissions. And when we compared the demographics and race data from year to year, they were close. We didn't have any African American females that readmitted, but we did have African American male that did readmit. And you can see on the right the comparison with the bar graph. I mean, just the significant decrease, which was wonderful. We were very excited to see that. So obviously something we did worked. And if you'll go to the next slide, we'll talk about the new focus. So when we looked at our readmits now, or more recently, we did find that we had a lot of Caucasian female readmissions, and there was a significant increase in those patients that had respiratory issues. And I've just noticed working in case management that we do have a lot of admissions related to COPD exacerbation, pneumonia, respiratory failure, things like that. So we really want to focus on that going forward. So we did reach out to our DME company that provides us with respiratory equipment that we use the most. And they do have a readmission reduction program that they partner with hospitals on, which we thought was great. It offers outpatient sleep studies, which in a rural area is wonderful because it's difficult to get these patients that we think have sleep apnea to get them set up to get a sleep study done. So they will assist in doing sleep studies. They will also provide additional resources when patients discharge home that have respiratory diagnoses. They'll have a respiratory therapist that follows up with the patients. So it's really great. We're still working on fine-tuning the partnership and how to send referrals and things. So we haven't fully implemented it yet, but we are planning to do that soon. Another thing that we wanted to focus on going forward is talking to our patients that readmit to us, to our hospital, a questionnaire that really dives into why they returned. You know, the patients that go to other hospitals, sometimes we don't get that chance. Even if we reach out to them, it may be months after that we realize that they were in readmission. It's not in real time. But the patients that return to your hospital, you can, you know, speak to them right away. So we have come up with a questionnaire so we can speak to the patients and really address why that patient returned and have, you know, even more accurate information. So those are the major things that we're looking forward to doing coming up. And then we are also going to be solidifying a palliative care program on our floor that I think will also help with vulnerable patients going home. We hope to have that going by June, but we're just starting. We were already offering resources, but it wasn't a formal program. So we're really trying to come up with policies and assessments and things like that, so we can have a formal program to offer those patients that are in need and make sure that they have everything when they discharge home. And I think that's it, but I will look at the questions. Shannon, we use Cerner, and we are actually going to be moving away from Cerner. We are going to be implementing Meditech by the end of the year.
Good.
The age for this population, was it for the readmissions, Nicole, or I'm not sure.
Yes, well, for overall, for your overall race, and then did you see that also the same age range for your readmissions? So were they 55 to 80? What was that age range? And then for your readmissions, was it the same or was it different?
Gotcha. Let's see. That is one thing I do look at. We have to keep we keep everything manual spreadsheet. So every readmit that we see, we're typing in all their information. So that is one thing that I look at. All the patients were, over 65 that readmitted. And I think that's probably our typical age range. We have
And
a lot
did you
of
see,
older
like,
population.
if they had issues with disparities, like, did they have a primary care provider? Was
So
there
in the
anything
very
that stood out?
beginning, we were still trying to roll out the social determinants of health assessment. So we really didn't have any accurate information on specific SDOHs that they might have triggered. They weren't asked at the time when we were looking at, vulnerable people to, assess for this. Now we have been using, I think, the Prepare tool for over a year. So we definitely have a lot more SDOH data than we did then. I honestly, I don't really see a lot of trends. We end up screening everyone, not just inpatients, but we get very little positive screens back. And I don't know if that's something other people see, but we don't get very much. And what we find a lot of times is that the nurses are asking the questions, and if anybody triggers, then case management goes and speaks with the patient. And we find that a lot of patients that the nurse thought had triggered, when we go and speak to them, they say no. And even when we go and speak to the nurse, just to double check, to make sure maybe they just didn't feel comfortable telling us, there was an error on their part. So we see a lot of errors for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. Even Nicole mentioned here, access to a primary care provider.
Most of our patients do actually have PCPs. We are lucky enough to have a family practitioner upstairs in our hospital. So anyone that does not have a PCP, we do offer that and set them up with an appointment upstairs for our family provider, if they consent, obviously. We also have a group that we haven't had to use yet, but and I'll have to find their name, but they actually provide, they will go out to the patient's home that does not have a primary care provider, and they will see the patients when they discharge home from the hospitals, I want to say for 30 days. And then the plan is to have them either get set up with a PCP, or for the patients that can't make it to their PCP offices, they'll see them for 30 days after discharge, and then they'll send the notes to their PCP, which I thought was great.
Yes. Okay. Comment from Shannon Hart. Meditech is great. She's familiar with EHR from previous hospitals, and at Candler they use CPSI, experiencing hiccups. Yes.
We're hoping that Meditech is a little bit better for us. Cerner has definitely had a lot of pain points for us when using it, and they're data collection is not great. That's why we all end up keeping 100 Excel spreadsheets.
Okay, and Linda, you had a question. Does the healthcare team use the Teachback tool to help understanding?
They do, and I think that's, well, I say they do, I would imagine they do. I know that they said they do. I think that sometimes in the past, before we could really go to the nurses and say, here is an issue, I think that they just assumed that a few minutes of discharge time was enough. But when we really went to the nurses and said, you know, we're having these patients come back or go to another hospital, and then we're finding out that, you know, they went home and they didn't know how to use their glucometer, or they didn't know they should, you know, be checking it before meals or what have you. I think when we could bring them like real data and real patient experiences, it really made them think, okay, maybe I do need to spend some more time with them. And I think that patients sometimes are afraid to speak up too and say, I don't understand. You know, they're so ready to go home. They don't want to spend any more time here. They don't want to spend any more time listening to the nurse or what have you. And so they just say, okay. And then they get home and realize that they're overwhelmed and really should have asked more questions. And not only do we call the patients, but I do find that our nurses call the families and patients a lot, which I think is great. They don't have to do that, but a lot of them end up building a relationship and a rapport with these patients. You know, we're a small community and a small hospital, so they have the ability to do that, and they choose to do that when they have time.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Yes, I agree that discharge process, discharge information, it's always nice for the discharge nurse to say, oh, we talked a lot about all these steps, and tell me what you need to do, 3 things you need to do when you get home. And so you do want to promote that self-care after their discharge. Okay, thank you so much, Caitlin. We appreciate it. I'm sorry I was clicking through the slides. I was actually looking for the playbook on the website.
No, that's okay.
We'll get that playbook out there.
I think the other thing that's helpful is involving people's families. I know this was so difficult. People expressed during COVID that you couldn't have family members involved, but you know, almost everybody has somebody else, you know, maybe that helps them with shopping or looks after them, or, you know, husbands that have wives or mothers that have daughters, and just say, include somebody else in this discharge because it's overwhelming. I'm a multiple time patient and I keep a composition notebook because it's hard to remember what someone's telling you, and you got to take notes. You got to think through it. You know, we used to have personal health records, little booklets that we gave people to help prevent readmissions, and just, you know, what are the goals that you want to have, and you know, what's new information to you. Those are important conversations to have, and I appreciate y'all following up quicker than 2 days is excellent. You know, the literature is 7 days with follow-up, and you're getting ahead of that by saying, you know, do you have a PCP, and can we arrange one for you, and can we, you know, make sure you have your medications and food in your refrigerator. I mean, all those things are hard conversations to have, but you've got to, you don't want them coming back. You want them to stay home.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So, and again, my last thought is that was a perfect example of how the shift in the data and the shift in your goal, and once you look at that data and you're tracking and trending it, and you're going to change your goal. So good luck, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to wrap up here. Project timeline. We talked about domain 3, the MBQuip updates. Please complete that survey homework assignment by March 31st. So April 22nd is your quality council. We'll have the hospital action plans or success stories. I'll follow up with the 6 hospitals that were on the list. And just make sure you're prepared. Show me your disparities, and I'll follow up with you. And then May 27th, we're going to try to build those success stories on our webpage and continue our quality council meetings. This is our webpage for the Georgia Flex resources. Please note the 2025 presentations. You'll see here we removed some verbiage. The materials or the slides are reposted, but the past recordings have been deleted, in case you're looking for past recordings. Moving forward, you will see both the materials and the recordings as of the February 2025 session. This was last month. And again, we'll add March 2025 to this. It'll be on our webpage, and that's our link there. More resources. Dawn mentioned this RQITA resources is available there. Rural Health Information Hub, Rural Health Research Gateway. And that leads us to our final questions. Thank you for the comments, the questions, everyone. And Linda, any other words, parting words for today?
Big shout out to Caitlin. Thanks so much for sharing your story. I mean, I'm a visual person, so I love seeing graphs. I love hearing about how things change. The other thing is I love photographs. So, you know, maybe when you all are sharing about your hospitals, put a picture of your hospital and just, you know, Caitlin didn't say how beautiful her little town is. Madison's a gorgeous place. If people need a road trip, what a pretty historic city in our state of Georgia, and it's just a lovely little town with a great support system for people. They've got a nursing home across the street that, you know, they've just got a lot going on. So thank y'all for sharing, and tell a little bit about where you are, because, you know, we can't today always get field trips where we go visit each other. That's another great learning technique, is to go visit each other. But if anybody's driving through Madison, give Caitlin a shout and go visit her. But I think that's you know, a benefit of building these relationships. We get to know each other, you know, and what good work people are doing, and get to know their, you know, the unique things. I mean, everybody has got something really to think about in their historic cities around the state.
Thank you, Linda. Good to hear. Okay. Thank you all. Again, we'll send a post-event email. Karen Ragland's going to show any continuing education. Have a quality day. We'll see you in April.
Have a quality day.